Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So this week's tutorial, we will be discussing your projects, your draft reports. I will be using some of your projects as examples as to the type of feedback that I'll be providing. While I'm specifically addressing these two, because I'll be talking about two projects today. While I'm specifically talking about these two, the feedback that I give them may also apply to your project. So if you see certain crossovers or certain things that you have also done which need to be changed, please make the necessary changes. I will be uploading all of your Word documents and commenting and recommending changes similar to how I will for these two ones that I've already done. Hopefully I'll try and get it to you all by the end of the weekend at the latest. For my sessions specifically, I'll be open to you guys making the changes and then wanting to send it back to me just to check again. I don't mind doing that at all, if you'd like, but there's no deadline or anything. There's no compulsion. You don't have to do it. It's just in case you wanted to make sure that you were on the right track after you'd made the changes. Is that clear?
Excuse me, sir. I missed my yesterday's session with you. Can I join today's?
Yeah, sure. You can join today's session. You're part of what time slot?
So 4 to 5.
4 to 5. Okay, sure. No worries. I'll take your attendance. Okay, guys. So for a lot of you, this is your first time in uni, first year. And I wanted to introduce you all to Turnitin, which is basically our plagiarism checkup. So plagiarism is a major problem in all universities, and we face a lot of it in engineering, especially because it is such a technical subject, a technical profession, and sometimes it's just easier to copy someone else's words to try and get your point across. But Turnitin basically scans your whole file that you upload, and then it matches similar sentences, similar paragraphs to sources either on the web or already uploaded to USP's database. And then it'll return a percentage plagiarism or the similarity index. So for USP in general, the maximum is 20%, but for engineering, the maximum is 15%. So if you get a plagiarism score between 0 and 15, you're fine. If you're over 15, you're in trouble. And if you're over 15 when you submit your final report, you will be getting a 0 because we won't mark anything that's above 15% plagiarism. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So the first project we'll have a look at today is this one. Are you all able to see my screen? Electric gate draft report.
Yes,
All
sir.
able to see? Great.
Yes, sir. We are able to see.
Okay, so I have to say before I start assessing, I'm not singling out any single group or I'm not picking on anybody. So any comments that I make, I don't mean to offend anyone. It's just my observation or my feedback. I hope you take it constructively. It's not personal or anything. And the only reason I have done these two is because they, on the class list, they're ahead of everybody else. I only got access to Moodle on Wednesday, so I've been going from then till now trying to get everybody's done. These two are the ones that I've done from this session so far, but I will be doing everybody's by the end of the weekend. Okay. So Akshay, I seem to remember you asking me if you could change it to electric gate. What was the original topic for your project? What was the original topic that you were given? Or anybody in the group? I'm just asking to find out whether or not Dr. Kabir has given authorization for you guys to move ahead with this topic. Is everyone able to hear me or?
Yes, sir. We are able to.
Okay. No, because I was informed that you guys wanted to change your scope of your project. But I haven't heard any word back yet from Dr. Kabir whether or not it's been approved. I just wanted to find out if it has been approved or not. Do you guys know or not yet? Anybody who's part of this group? Oh, okay. It was the original project. Okay. So moving forward, all right, your introduction. The major issue I had with reading through your project was the grammar. I couldn't understand sentences, whole blocks of sentences. Now, if anybody can read this sentence and tells me what it means, I'll be very grateful, because I had no idea when I was trying to read this sentence. It attempt to open doors and near as well in this manner the gather, the chosen to reproduce. I have no idea what you're trying to say. I strongly advise a grammar check before you guys upload. And also, I felt like your introduction, you had overcomplicated by using lots of big words. Now this goes for everybody, okay? Just because it is an engineering report or it's an engineering unit doesn't mean you have to try and make it sound really technical, okay? Sometimes the most effective way of communicating is simply and straight to the point. No beating around the bush. Bear in mind that as engineers, we have to be able to communicate our technical ideas to people who are not always technical minded, okay? We're always trying to deliver our work to clients, investors, stakeholders, and they don't always have the engineering background that we have or the scientific background that we have. So throwing in lots of complicated words and trying to make your sentences seem really complex, sometimes it works against your favor, because I have no idea what you're trying to say by these last two paragraphs. It was all very confusing. So my first bit of advice would be to try and simplify. Just talking about the problem that you're trying to face, and then talk about the design process that you followed and the tools that you used to accomplish the project. Okay, anybody who reads your introduction should then be able to say, okay, for the rest of the project, I can expect to find out this bit of information. That's the whole purpose of an introduction. It's not supposed to be a big information dump where you throw all of your information in. It's just supposed to be to kind of warm the crowd up to what they're supposed to be expecting from the rest. Is that clear? Okay, great. Problem statement. I like the creativity that you have with your problem, but I have to say, even for me, I feel like this statement is a stretch. That you're designing a gate because people get sick and then they lose their jobs. That's a very, very specific or very unique issue. I feel like you could have gone for something a bit more relatable. Maybe something more along the lines, you had to design a electric gate for a guy who is maybe disabled or in a wheelchair, right? And he can't get up and manually open a gate. So he has to have some kind of electric gate to open for him, okay? The whole idea that you don't want to go out because when it's raining or when it's too hot, people get sick and then you lose your job. That's a bit of a stretch. So you may just want to look again at your problem statement. Again, it's completely up to you if you want to stay with this, but just for me, I kind of find it a little bit hard to believe. Also, the word inaccessible in this sentence, I think that's the wrong use of the word inaccessible. But all in all, your problem statement is fine. You know, it introduces an issue and paves the way for a solution to be developed. So problem statement's fine. Maybe just look at the reason why, but it's up to you. Design brief, I thought this was much too long for a design brief. Design brief is just supposed to be 1 or 2 sentences clearly stating what it is you have to design. Okay, to me, this was almost another problem statement again. You know, a design brief. So you may want to try and simplify it down, just get it down to the essence of what should this design have to be able to answer the problem that we have. Okay, so maybe simplify down your design brief. Your literature review, be sure to reference all of your information. There was no in-text referencing at all in your report, and that is an issue because you can't just have a reference at the end. You have to have in-text referencing all the way throughout, just to show where you've got this bit of information, where you got this bit, where you got this bit, and so on and so forth. So make sure you do in-text referencing. But for the layout of your literature review, I was quite impressed. It's a nice flow of information. You've broken it down into what you'll be looking at, the introduction to the literature review almost, the components of the electric gate, the different types of electric gates. I thought this was very well done. You looked at all the different types. Just one small note, maybe change the word famous for well-known. Famous doesn't seem quite professional enough in that sense. Like I said, I like what you've done with the extensive research. I really, really like this kind of in-depth research. You know, it shows that you've had a look at what exists, and then hopefully you've extracted certain ideas to use in your own. So that's great. But I can't stress this enough, that never underestimate the effectiveness of a good picture and a short caption. Okay? It's all very well having lengthy sentences explaining what something does, but it would be more effective to have a picture and just a short caption. You know, a picture tells 1,000 words, and nobody wants to read 1,000 words. Not me, not the client, not Dr. Kabir, nobody, okay? So while I like the way that you've done the research, the way that you've conducted the research, the presentation or the delivery of the research, I feel you could improve a bit on. Just adding pictures, adding a proper figure number, a nice caption, and then the referencing it. Okay. But for the content of your research, I really like it. So you guys have done in-depth research into multiple different types of gates, alternatives, and then the different types of actuators. I don't know if you know Dr. Dan Wood. He's a senior fellow in mechanical engineering, and he gets really excited by these kinds of literature reviews where people have gone really in depth. So, you know, it's a good sign if you manage to research a lot and then develop your ideas based on your research. So these guys have obviously done quite a lot of research. This is the first time you've used figures, and while it's useful, you might want to do it elsewhere throughout the project. Concept development. Now, I want to ask, is this concept development a section underneath the literature review, or is this a separate section? because in the design process that we have, we go from basically research straight into idea generation. Yeah? That's the whole step where you sort of brainstorm. And while I've told you guys that you don't have to write it up, a few of you have, and that adds another level of detail to your design report. So if this section is a standalone section and not part of your research, then you have technically done the brain mapping section here. Now, while I like the idea that you guys have gone with concept development to find out exactly what bits you want to try and incorporate into the design, and that is what you should be doing, I feel like you guys went a bit too technical without the background knowledge of the technical, if you get what I mean. Like doing the evaluation, the calculations. I'm guessing this is for motor sizing. Am I right? Motor sizing. So there are certain terms that you've used here that are incorrect. Like force, like F in this case is not power, it's force. You know, certain terms, and F is equal to ME. Well, that is true. For this case, if you're having a swinging arm, you're not looking at linear forces. You're looking at angular forces and angular acceleration, angular velocities, which is technically a 200, 300 level type of project. While I applaud you guys for going this deep, I would refrain from trying to do hand calculations and hand analysis or calculation analysis, just because if you get it wrong, it just throws doubt on your whole design process. Okay, unless you're really confident with the technical, with your understanding of physics, your understanding of engineering and mechanics, and all that, I would refrain from trying to size your motors and all that. Is that understood? You can keep it in by all means as part of your research, but if you're going to try and do a calculation report or a sizing for your final design, chances are, if you are all indeed first years, chances are you'll be off somewhere just because there's a bit of theory that you lack in, and it'll just throw an unnecessary cog in the works, a spanner in the works. So I would stay away from that if you could. So your design criteria. I like your criteria. It's a bit short. And to be honest, I would have thought you would include things like what size gate are you looking at? Like what driveway? Or what's the width of your driveway and what's the span that your gate has to be able to open and close to? How much do you think it's going to cost and what you're going to make it of and those kind of things? I would have thought you would have gone a bit more in depth in those for your design criteria. So that's another suggestion of mine. Maybe you might want to include a certain cost or a gate size. And bear in mind, if you do include it in your design criteria, you have to then justify that in your problem statement. So in your problem statement, you state that you have to try and, they need to build a gate, but they need to make it affordable. Surveys found that the average Fijian will only be able to afford so-and-so. So we have to design a gate that costs less than that, or something like that, like you have to justify it in your problem statement while you're telling the story. Same thing with the gate size. We're designing it for a gate that's a driveway that's 3-4 meters wide. Yeah, just stuff like that. But in general, I like your design criteria. Might need to be a bit more specific in certain places, but all in all, that's pretty well done. Sorry, I think I lost you there for a minute. Are you all able to see my screen again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So did you hear my bit about where I was saying design criteria?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, I was thinking your design criteria could include a cost as well as a gate size. Possible solutions. I thought these were very well done. Nice and neat drawings. I like the evaluation, very short and very precise. You guys did a very good job with the possible solution sketching. Very neat. So thank you for that. But I want to make something clear that this is not an evaluation, okay? This is a working principle. Evaluation is when you start to use a decision matrix, you start to justify why you think this design is better than this design. And at the end of it, you should come up with the best final solution, which I don't think you guys have done, okay? You've listed all your possible solutions, but I still don't know which possible solution you have chosen as your final solution. Is that okay? And for referencing, I recommend using MS Word, the referencing, built-in referencing. I plan to do a short tutorial video sometime over the weekend, just talking about how you might be able to use Microsoft Word to do all your formatting a lot easier. Okay, guys. So thank you very much for your submission for this one. I'll just look at one more example. Oh, yes. Yes, a question? Feel free to unmute your mic and ask your question. Should the possible solutions be in 3D or 2D? They don't have to, oh, you don't have to, you can do either. You can do it as a 2D sketch or a 3D sketch. In their case, of the gate, doing it as a 3D sketch wouldn't have made sense. But for people who are designing a car or a boat, 3D sketches are probably best. If you're designing a drone, 3D sketch. If you're designing something that's flat, like a gate, 2D sketch is fine. Okay, so this is another example of a project. And so far, this is probably the most impressive one that I've seen. Surely because of the amount of work that they put into it. So I have to applaud this group, Natalia, Kirsten, Dwayne, and Colin. You guys did a really good job with this one. To be honest, I couldn't find a lot of things to pass comments on. There's a few things that I might suggest that you change or improve, but all in all, it's done very well. So they had to design a folding tent for two that can fit in the bag and be set up in a few minutes. Introduction. I thought your introduction, while it's long, it's very informative and it's very well written. It has a nice flow of information. So, and you've done all your referencing, in-text referencing and all that. So I have no issues with your introduction. Only thing I might say is you might include a bit about the design process that's being used and the tools that we use to develop your sketches. But other than that, I really like your introduction. Problem statement. Problem statement was very good. I thought it started with a very broad topic, very broad issue, and then brought it down to a nice specific problem very, very naturally. You know, I didn't feel like you were forcing the issue. You went from step to step to step, and it made sense at the end. So I know exactly what it is you're trying to design, or what the problem is that you're going to try and solve. Your design brief was very extensive. And I have to say that I think this is the most criteria that I've seen so far. I just have one question for you guys. What's the difference between your specifications and your design brief?
No, actually, there's not quite a difference. I think that with our specifications, we just elaborated it, and it might be a bit verbose. So I admit that there's, yeah, I think it's just being verbose in that point.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry about that.
Okay, set. No, because I read your design brief and I was like, okay, set. These guys got it. And then I saw some of them repeated again later on. So I was just a bit confused. Your design brief is just 1 or 2 sentences that say exactly what it is you have to design. So in your case, it's basically your topic again. A tent, folding tent for 2 that has all the sanitary, whatever it is, sanitary products or whatever it is that you're saying that you want to include for 2, and it has to be able to be set up very quickly. Okay, that would be your design brief. Then all of these specifications I really, really like. The only thing that I would say is this number, 270. If you're going to say a specific cost or a specific budget that you have to work towards, you have to mention that somewhere in your problem, okay? You have to say, why is there a 270 limit, or why is there a $270 budget for our project? You have to try and build it in organically into your problem statement. So if at the end of the problem statement, you're saying, you know, there is a need and there is a, say the government is willing to invest in 30 or so prototypes. They've given us this much budget, but then when we split it amongst the 30 that we have to create, it comes to about 270 each. That will be a really good way to build in this budget into your problem. But all your specifications are really good. I think you're the only group that's done the limitations and done the limitations, actual limitations. So all of these are very good limitations. Materials may not be available. So the difference between limitations and specifications is specifications are things that your design has to have. So these guys have said the design has to be able to do these things. The only things that are limiting our design are these things. Okay, so you guys have done a very good job with the design brief. Background review. Generally, I would, in your case, it's fitting, but I would generally say stay away from a project area because it is a fictional project, unless you're talking from experience or you're, you know, you're actually addressing a real life problem. I'd stay away from talking about the project area, but in your case, it seems to be almost fact. Is this fact, or have you sort of made up this problem in this specific area? It's fact. Oh, okay. If it's fact, then you may need to throw in some references as to where you got your information from. Principles used. Again, you guys have done a very good job in dividing your literature review down into manageable chunks and suitable headings, subheadings. Again, the only thing I'd say is the effective use of pictures. While you might think it's childish or, you know, add pictures when you can have words, in reality, it's a lot more effective. Solutions that already exist for the design, I would expect to see some pictures. In-text referencing is good. Only thing is some of these aren't, you have an in-text reference using MS reference. I recommend using MS reference just so that it automatically updates if you were to make any changes. Material costs, and you've referenced all of your material costs, which is very good. Again, just use of pictures, only real comment. Okay, now design criteria. I believe you've already mentioned these before, but these are more specific, am I right? These are more specific design criteria? Yes, okay. So these numbers that you have, these figures, I haven't read your literature review in depth, but have you justified why 1.5 to 2.5 years? Has it been said anywhere in your research that that is an ideal, useful lifetime for tents? These dimensions as well? Are these all just from your own imagination, or are these actually referenced? Okay, because these are all very specific criteria, very specific dimensions. You may want to try and find a way to build it in, or if not, don't have them as a criteria. Possible solutions. Possible solutions are very well done, very descriptive, nice labeling. Okay, this bit, talking about what is the multi-criteria analysis. You don't actually have to include this because we already know what a multi-criteria analysis is. Okay, you don't have to try and teach your client. You just have to deliver the information to your client. So all of these, again, it's a bit repetitive because you've mentioned it in your design brief, your design criteria, your specifications. At this point, it's becoming a bit repetitive. You may want to remove this from this section. And the main thing that you're supposed to involve in your evaluation is the is the justification for each of your scores. So you've talked about how you're evaluating using a weighted decision matrix. You've given it the weighted criterion. This has been explained before, so that's very good. But each one of the scores that you give it, you have to justify why does possible solution 1 get a 4 for portability, 4, 3, so on and so forth. Okay. Dr. Kabir has been very clear about that he's looking at that especially. Okay, what's your justification for each one of these scores? So out of your whole project, this is probably the only place that I would say that you need to make a few changes, include a bit more information possibly. But at the end of it, you come up with the best possible solution. Possible solution 3 is your best option. This one. And you're ready to jump into your final sketches and everything. So up until this point, you guys have done a very good job. Again, just a few points that I've made. But other than that, you guys are fine. And I hope everybody else watching has been able to see the way that these guys have done it. And hopefully you have already, or if not, you might make a few changes to adapt yours a bit, just to accommodate the few points that I've made, as well as try and align yourself to this sort of standard. Okay. A lot of people treat this unit as a throwaway unit because it's fully coursework. But in my opinion, the full coursework units are the hardest because you have to keep a constant performance going the whole way through the semester. So if yours is not up to the standard or hasn't been done properly, you still have time to make changes. Okay, guys, if there are no more questions, thank you very much for attending this session. Please just leave your ID number in the chat so that I can take attendance. We'll pick on the final reports as draft reports. No, okay, so because the bulk of your writing has already been done up to this point, it shouldn't pick up anymore. Or if your Turnitin index comes back to the same next time when you submit, that means you haven't made any changes really. So To be honest, I'm not too sure how that works. I think Dr. Kabir will send a notification to the guys who actually run the software at ICT to inform them that there's already been one submission. So if it's picking up a exact reference from your own report that you submitted this year, then it will disregard that. I believe that's what they'll do. Okay, guys, thank you very much. See you next week. Stay blessed.
Okay, bye.